you've mentioned that you enjoy the word why.
My favorite word.
It's favorite word, okay.
Yes.
How should a writer incorporate the word why and that never-ending curiosity from the minute they start writing?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, why is connected to curiosity, and I think all great artists are highly curious individuals. For me, I'm just curious about everything. So the reason I love writing so much is because, just like learning about it, something. I mean, I'm not the first one to say this, but I write about things that fascinate me because I don't know about them. In other words, I write in order to learn. I write in order to learn more about a topic and answer that why question. Why is this done, or how, or whatever. So, but the why, in terms of writing, connects to the reason why characters do what they do. That's what audiences really want to know, and that comes to motivation. So motivation is really important. I mean, it's the cliche actor's question, right? Like, what's my motivation? Why am I doing this? Why am I saying this in a scene? Well, when you're writing a story and you're creating a character, and you have all these things happening in the story that you've come up with. So, okay, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, and this is going to happen. You got to know why. Audiences really want to know why, because if it doesn't connect to a universal motivation, it's going to feel contrived and fake, and that happens all the time. That happens with, you go and say, you know what, that character would not do that, and you might be true about that, So for me, why connects to motivation. It's like, once I know what a character wants, the next question is why, and you better have a good answer to why a character wants what they want. Why do they react a certain way, which creates the plot. It all comes to character. It's all psychology,
Have you ever seen a writer that maybe their curiosity could be ramped up a couple notches? Like, they just seem to, there's certain people that don't want to admit to ever either being wrong or not knowing something.
Yeah.
And they need a little more of that.
Yeah. Well, it really depends. Of course, yeah. I mean, it's just like any type of character or human that you meet. I mean, there's people who are very curious and there's people who are totally non-curious.
Yeah.
And you can tell just from people who ask questions. Usually people who ask questions, I mean, when I meet somebody new, I constantly ask questions because I want to know everything, about a person. So I'm constantly asking questions. But if somebody asks you questions too, that shows their curiosity, So it's really curiosity is not a trait that it's in every human being, although I feel it should. But they're curious about certain things and they're less curious about others, and depends on the human being, really.
So how does that show up in the writing? And maybe not that they're not curious, but it's just
it depends. I think it goes to how original the writing is, how much of a world is explored, right? Because somebody who's not really curious about something, it'll be flat because you only get just a certain level of material, right? Whether it's one-dimensional characters, right? Be just like one surface of a character because you didn't go deeper as to the research or knowing about that character or their psychology. So I feel that when you come across stories that are really rich and deep, you can tell the writer was very curious because they dug deep, and that's what they explored.
So Silence of the Lambs?
Perfect example. Yeah. I mean, look at all the richness of detail of character psychology, even that world. The Godfather, perfect example. Yeah, I mean, just you can tell the artists that are really curious about the world they're writing in and the characters. Those who really write truly three-dimensional characters and great complex relationships, and yeah. So that's how it affects it. And not everybody's curious. So that's why you have good writers and bad writers.